Your moon sign is your innermost emotions. Your moon sign shows how you feel on the inside when no one else is around. It's how you intellectually process your emotions. Your moon sign can also show your relationship with your mother and what your upbringing was like. Your moon sign can also show what truly nurtures you and what makes you the absolute happiest. Finding out your moon sign is really important to get a better understanding of how you feel on the inside, what really intellectually stimulates you, and the things that you can do in order to make yourself the happiest. Hi, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here we like to talk about astrology, numerology, and everything written in the stars for you. I've been a practicing astrologer since 2017, and here on this channel, I share my knowledge with you about astrology and numerology. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the moon in astrology and understanding the house that your moon sign is in. This will show you how you really intellectualize your innermost emotions, how you really think about things. Your moon sign will show you what your upbringing was like in your relationship with your mother. It also shows you the activities and the things that really intellectually stimulate you. When you meet somebody whose sun sign is your moon sign, you have something called a sun-moon conjunction. And the person who has their sun sign as your moon sign will present themselves outwardly the exact way that you feel on the inside. When you are alone and with your own thoughts, you could be like in your bed at night or something like that. You are really reflecting upon your moon sign, like your emotions, how you feel on the inside. I feel like your moon sign is what you reflect in others, meaning when you meet somebody with your sun sign, your moon sign is kind of like a reflection of them. And you might actually end up kind of mirroring the person. If you meet somebody who has like their sun sign as your moon sign, you could mirror this person. You might also find that your moon sign is like how you are when you're alone with your thoughts. It's a little bit different from your Mercury sign. Mercury is all about how you communicate and the activities that intellectually stimulate you. Your moon is like more about like your emotions and what you really like. In this video, I'm going to go through all the houses that your moon sign can be in and how that will be like a reflection of you, and kind of will give you a picture about like your relationship with your mother, and also like how you can really tap into your moon sign to get a better understanding of yourself. So starting with moon in the first house, if you have your moon in the first house, you are kind of focused on appearances, the way you appear to others. You could feel very nurtured when you focus on your own beauty. You could also work in something like the beauty industry where you work as a hairstylist or a makeup artist or a nail tech, and you help other people with their beauty. You could find that by watching videos online of beauty products or listening to beauty gurus really nurture you and you really like that. You might find that people who talk about beauty and appearances, or even watching like fitness influencers, help you really learn about how to take care of your body and how you can become like the next version of yourself. You could want to watch more beauty influencers online in order to become a better version of yourself, and really like the way that they speak about beauty and what they speak about appearances and different ways to do hair and stuff. You could find that you're going down intellectual rabbit holes with like beauty and beauty things. You could also work in the beauty industry where you're a hairstylist or a makeup artist and really feel nurtured by that. You might see a lot of people who work in beauty and be like, this is what I want to do with my life. You could also be somebody who might want to be a model, or you could find yourself like seeing models out in the universe and be like, this is what I want to do. That's like my goal. That is who I want to become. You could find yourself wanting to become a model because you feel like very nurtured. Your relationship with your mother, you could have felt that you might have been brought up in a way that was really focused on appearances. Like your mother could have been very focused on caring a lot about the way you look, or caring a lot about like you need to look a certain way in order to make people like you. You could have felt that way, or you should behave in a certain way or express yourself in a way outwardly so other people like you. You could have felt like that was kind of like a theme in your upbringing, and that has continued like throughout your entire life, and it's just become kind of like a habit to always kind of focus on your outer shell in order to bring people in and get them to like you. If you have your moon in the second house, you feel very nurtured when you are making your own money and taking care of your own finances. You could be somebody who really cares about like your financial situation, making sure that you are financially stable. You could be somebody who really wants to become like a real estate investor or somebody who wants to invest in the stock market. You could have been somebody who has had a lot of luck with money in your life as well. You could have invested in real estate relatively young, which has allowed you to build equity in a property to grow wealth. You could also find that you are very focused on generating wealth for yourself. If you are not focused on necessarily generating wealth for yourself and creating your own business, you could be somebody who's more focused on the keeping up with the Joneses persona, where like you want luxury items, you seek luxury, you want to be in designer clothes, you want to have luxury handbags, you want to be like this person who has fancy, expensive things in order to make people like you. Or you could also feel very nurtured when you were watching TV shows that show wealth. You could feel very like nurtured by this. It could also remind you of your upbringing. Maybe you came from like a wealthy household, or like your family was very focused on like in like the keeping up with the Joneses thing. Like your upbringing was more about like having like the newest thing, having a fancy car, having a fancy house, appearing very luxurious to people. You could also have felt like even if you didn't necessarily have a lot, you could have put on kind of like a show in your life to kind of show you have more than you have. Your family could have been something where like when you grew up, you could have been more extravagant. And because of that, you could have grown up feeling like you need to do that. And it also nurtures you to make sure that you're financially stable and you have like luxury items to make you feel like you're like well off and happy. You could be one of those people who like works really hard to make sure that they have enough. Even if you don't necessarily have that amount of money, you are still showing that you do. You could have had a mother who really cared about like the keeping up with the Joneses thing, or you could have had a mother who really instilled it in your brain that you need to make money and be financially stable, go to college, get your degree, get a job, or start your own business that will help you grow equity and wealth. Invest in real estate because then you'll be able to grow and generate wealth for yourself. You could have had a mother who really cared about that, and you could have also found that throughout your entire life you've had this like theme of money in your whole life, or like you have worked really hard and have like even like married people in order to generate more money for yourself. You could have been one of those people and really cares about that a lot because it's part of what nurtures you. If you have your moon in the third house, you are somebody who gets very intellectually stimulated through communications. You really like social media. You probably have been on every social media platform known to mankind. You love communications. You also really like things like going and shopping. I mean, then the third house could be like just going and running errands and going to like TJ Maxx or going to the store. We have Wegmans on the East Coast, so like you could really like going to Wegmans and TJ Maxx and stuff like that, and that's what like makes you very happy. You could be somebody who loves to watch like shopping hauls on social media and like what people purchase online, and you could be like, oh my gosh, this is so like, this makes me so happy, this is what nurtures me. Your relationship with your mother could have been like she wanted you to be very smart, so she could have had you read a lot of books when you were younger. You could have read the entire library. Your mother could be very focused on your own intellect and how smart you are, and she could have made you want to work really hard in school. She could have gotten like tutors for you to become like, you know, very smart, getting straight A's. You could also have been somebody who really cared about like your intellect, so you could have worked really hard to get like and achieve straight A's and things like that, or getting like really good grades in school. You could have been somebody in school who's just very sharp-minded, and it also stimulates you to just be very quick-witted and quick on your feet. So like you could have always been like in the front of the class and like raised your hand and try to answer every question. People could have called you like a little bit of like a know-it-all, but you don't really understand why they're saying that. It's more like I have a lot of ideas and I have a lot of thoughts. Like I just feel happy whenever I get things correctly. You could also be really good at trivia and have like answers to every question because it makes you happy. Like that's what you like to do. It's just fun for you, and because it nurtures you in a way, and it reminds you of your mother when you're like working really hard to get more information about stuff and you just really like it. Typically when people are like, oh, you're like a know-it-all, they're just jealous that you can do something that they can't understand. But people could have said that due to their jealousy that you're getting straight A's, you know what I mean? You could have been somebody who really cared about like the SATs and things like that and doing really well on your tests and exams. You could also like just have felt this theme throughout your life where you feel like you need to gain a lot of knowledge about stuff in order to be successful. You could just constantly be like reading and listening to podcasts, listening to YouTube videos in order to gain as much knowledge as possible. I feel like having your moon in the third house energy is a little bit similar to like moon in Gemini, because moon in Gemini is constantly like learning new things and it doesn't really like just one direction. Gemini, there's like a duality to Gemini. But I feel like moon in the third house, even though the third house is ruled by Gemini, is more focused on like intellectual pursuits, intellectual things. The energy kind of similar to Gemini, and the fact that like it just wants to learn. It has a thirst for knowledge. It has like, you have a very curious mind when you have moon in the third house, and you're a little bit more focused on things like social media. You could be really nurtured by the fact that if you're a social media influencer, like you could really like that, and that would be like your goal in life, because you can really learn a lot about a lot of stuff and then communicate it to people. And it's also very much like, you know, the third house energy where you're posting and it's short-term communication. You could do really well on platforms like TikTok because it's like short form communication and speaking like in easy, digestible, understandable bits for other people to take in and learn from you. You could really like that. And you could also be somebody who'd be really happy if they started like their own podcast or something where people would listen to them. If you have your moon in the fourth house, you are somebody who is very emotionally intelligent. You could have a lot of emphasis on your emotions throughout your entire life. Your upbringing could play like a big major role in your life, where the way you grew up is always going to be like something that stays with you. You could feel very nostalgic for the way that you grew up. Maybe you had a really great upbringing, because fourth house is like ruled by Cancer. So you could have like a very, very good upbringing, and you could have a very good relationship with your mother in particular. And your relationship with your mother and her being a more of a nurturing figure in your life and playing a bigger role could really help you be like a stronger person in your life, wherever your emphasis on like your day-to-day life is. You could be somebody who really cares like a lot about their domestic home life. If you have your moon in the fourth house, you could be somebody who wants to grow up and start a family. And you could be somebody who wants to have that like typical traditional life where you grow up, you start a family, you're at home, you might want to have kids and take care of the kids, and you feel very nurtured by this, and it makes you feel very like emotionally safe. You could have like emotional safety in the fact that like you have a home, you have kids, you have a spouse or a partner that helps you with your life in order to achieve this. Having a family that you've created yourself will make you feel very happy on the inside. You'll also feel like having that type of life will make you feel very nurtured and could remind you of home. Having your moon in the fourth house could also kind of keep you a little bit stuck in the past in a way. Like the way that you grew up and the things you remember when you were like a kid, like under the age of like 10 years old, like that could stay with you, and you will want to emulate and dress the way that people did during that time. Because when you have like the fourth house, which is more known for like nostalgia, emotions, like our upbringing, our domestic life, our home life, when you have your moon there, it's going to have you feel nurtured by the fact that you are being nostalgic. You should do your hair or dress in a way that people did when you were younger. You know, those people who, even though it's 2025 right now when I'm posting this video, the people who still do their hair kind of like the 80s, you could be kind of like that, where like it makes you happy because when you look in the mirror, you feel nostalgic for a time when you grew up. You grew up in the 80s is just an example. But if you have your moon in the fourth house, by appearing in a way that makes you feel nostalgic, it will make you happy. You'll also have a good relationship with your mother. Being around your mom will make you very happy. If you have your moon in the fifth house, you are nurtured through your own creative pursuits. You could be somebody who really is very talented creatively. You could be somebody who creates music, creates content on social media. You could be a graphic designer, or you could be like a video editor, or somebody who works in the creative industry professionally. You could also be somebody who is an entertainer and really likes entertaining people. If you're not like a professional entertainer where you're like a music artist, or you're an actor, or you are a music producer, or something where you're like a professional entertainer, you could feel very nurtured when people come over to your house for like a dinner party and you are entertaining them. You are creating food and entertainment for them at the dinner party. You could like really love entertaining other people in that fashion. You could be somebody who wants to have parties at your house. Like, you know, people in college, they have house parties all the time. You could be one of those people that feels very nurtured in this, and like your emotions are so centered in the fact that you want to be popular, you want people to like you, and you want to entertain people in order to make them happy. You want to do those things. You could be somebody who's like a go-go dancer in a club, or you could work in the nightlife or entertainment industry in some way. If you're not like a professional entertainer who's in the spotlight, you could be somebody who works in a nightclub or works as a bartender or something like that, because it emotionally fulfills you. It's not so much that you have to do a job like that. I feel like sometimes when you work in nightlife or you work as a bartender, some people will have this like perception that, oh, they have to do that because they don't have a college degree or they can't work a 9 to 5. It's more like you want to do it. Like, you want to do it because you don't want to work 9 to 5, because that's not what stimulates you intellectually. Like, that's not what you care about in your life. You care about having fun and making other people happy. Like, that's what you want to do. It's kind of like how like some people might want to work in nightlife or work as a professional entertainer, and they're going through school, like they're in college, but they just drop out of school because like they don't want to go that direction, because they might not feel like having a 9 to 5 and working like a mundane job is going to be good enough for them. They could want to just go into nightlife and entertain people. They could also want to be like influencers on social media or post videos that people can watch. They want to entertain, they want to make people happy. I feel like their relationship with their mother is really positive. Their mom could have been somebody who really supported their art throughout their entire life. They could have been just a very talented kid where they got like published or writing published, or they could be somebody who like has always been successful on social media, and their mom has always been very supportive of that. Their mom also could have been an artist themselves. They could have been like a visual artist, or they could be somebody who did murals or pottery or really anything that involves art. Their mom also could be an entertainer in some way. Doing that, they could replicate their mom to the fact that they are also an entertainer. They could feel very nostalgic and very like emotionally supported by the fact that they're an entertainer and their mom was an entertainer as well, or like to entertain people. Again, we could be talking about people having house parties, but like they could feel very nurtured by that fact, and it could remind them of their mom whenever they have parties. Do things that entertain people who have like house parties like every single night. Like, that could have been your mom, and your mom could have been somebody who liked to throw house parties and make people happy. If you have your moon in the 6th house, having your moon in the 6th house makes you somebody who's very into services to other people. You care a lot about your health, and you could work a job where you serve other people, like you help other people with their day-to-day lives. You want to help people along with like what they do in their lives. You could be somebody who wants to work a service job or work a job where you are serving other people and helping the public in some way. You could be something like a public servant where you are serving the public in order to help them with like infrastructure, or you could be something like a judge or like a lawyer or something like that, because you are serving the public and helping the public in some way. You could really also care a lot about your health. You could have a day-to-day routine that prioritizes your health and prioritizes your physical bodily health. When you were younger, you could have had situations where you might not have had the best health. Maybe you were in the hospital when you were a kid, or maybe you broke your arm, or maybe you were just like sick all of the time and that stays with you. So like you really care about your health, making sure you're vaccinated and like up to date on everything in order to prevent yourself from getting sick later on in life. You could really care about like taking care of your body, taking care of your health in order to prevent further things happening to you. Like you want to make sure that you are all good. Like you don't want to be like sick through your whole life. You want to feel good all the time. So you could be somebody who wakes up in the morning and goes for a run and then comes back and then begins work, and you then could like after work you go and take a walk or like go to the gym again to make sure that your physical bodily health is like the best. You could also be somebody who's very into watching health videos on the internet. You could watch what I eat in a days and other people's daily routines and workout routines in order to make you feel very healthy. Like you could want to constantly learn from other people about how to become healthier, and that could really stick with you. Your mom could have been somebody who's like really into their own physical bodily health. You could have also seen your mom be physically sick before, like maybe they were in the hospital for something, or maybe they were just like not the healthiest. They could have been sickly in some way or have had health issues, and that could have stayed with you. You could also have like kind of this workaholic mentality. The sixth house is more about like working yourself to the bone. You could have this like not so great tendency to want to work all of the time, and you could be kind of like a workaholic unintentionally. You could be somebody who wants to work so much and cares so much about it, and it could even be in detriment to you because like you work way too much and it's like you feel really nurtured by it, you really like it, but it's not really healthy. So it's constantly like the balance between the two. Your conversations with your mother could be more about like taking care of yourself, taking care of your health, and making sure you're good. Because again, there could have been something in your past where there's been like a theme around being in the hospital or being sickly in some way. So taking care of your health and stuff is going to be like really important for you. If you have your moon in the seventh house, you are heavily focused on relationships in your life. Not only have you always been in like a relationship or always like had this theme of romance throughout your entire life, you're also extremely socially intelligent, very good with people, extremely good with one-on-one relationships. You should be like a relationship builder with people. You should be something like an account manager where you're constantly relationship building with others. You are just very socially intelligent, and people want to come into your life with the intention of getting in a relationship with you, whether it is romantically or if it is more in the sense of just being in a relationship with you in a business way. They could want to be a business partner with you or a partner with you. So if you're like an account manager or like a sales rep for your company, you're most likely going to be an amazing client relationship builder, because not only are you going to attract a lot of people in your life who want to be in a relationship with you, you're going to be very talented at it, and people are going to really like you and they're going to want to work with you. The fact that your moon is in your seventh house, it nurtures you as well. And you find that you are constantly thinking about relationships all of the time. You could have felt like you've always kind of thought about your relationships with other people throughout your entire life. You could have also felt that you could have been a little codependent too. You could have codependent tendencies where you feel like you have to have a best friend, or you have to have a boyfriend, or you have to have a girlfriend, or you have to have some relationship where you have this like codependency. You're always with somebody, romantic or platonic. You could be like constantly partnering with somebody. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, it could be platonic too, where you have like a best friend. And that's what makes you so strong as like a client relationship builder for like other people or like companies, because people want to work with you, they want to partner with you. And your relationship with your mom could have been like a little codependent, where your mom necessarily wasn't like your mom, they were more like your best friend. You were always kind of with your mom all the time, and your mom could have felt like they're like your best friend and they could have helped you throughout your entire life, and you have a very solid relationship with your mother. It could also be just like really good, and like you guys are like besties. And with that like great relationship that you have with your mom, that will help you become like a very strong relationship builder throughout your entire life. You're kind of like a positive force in people's lives where like people love to partner with you. You could also, if you have this placement, get married young because you're very focused on partnerships and partnering with other people. If you have your moon in the 8th house, you have gone through a lot of deep, dark experiences throughout your entire life. You could have been somebody who has gone through a lot of stuff. You could have gone through some very intense experiences that are hard to explain to other people. You could also be kind of psychic in a way where you receive information about stuff and you can't really explain how you get this information because it comes to you in psychic means. You could be somebody who has had paranormal experiences or experiences with like spirits or ghosts. You could have been somebody who has lived in like a haunted house or something, or has just like had experiences like that that are hard to explain to people. You could be somebody who, again, like downloads psychic information very easily. You could also find that you're constantly transforming in your life. Like, you are constantly going from like one version of yourself to the next. You're always transforming. You might also find that your life kind of revolves around other people's resources, other people's money. You could easily attract money in your life. This placement can also indicate that you could receive an inheritance from a maternal figure in your life, or you could receive money from like women specifically. They could help you in your life and give you money. You could find that you could also, if you start your own business, you could find that you could attract a lot of money from women. If it's more tailored towards a female audience, you'll become wealthy in doing so because the 8th house is other people's money and them giving you money, and the moon represents women. So it's like you will attract money if you have this placement. However, you could also have some rocky and turbulent relationships with women as well. You could have a lot of drama in your life with women. You could attract very intense relationships with women. You could have a lot of drama in your life, and female figures in your life might be a little intense to be around. You might find that you have an intense relationship with your mother as well, where it could be a little unpredictable and it's hard to understand everything that goes on. You could have very deep psychological experiences throughout your upbringing. Things could have happened to you, or traumatizing things could have happened to you that are very deeply psychological. You could find that you've had some traumatic things happen to you, and you could be somebody who also kind of know things like as kind of like a sixth sense. Like, you just know things without people like telling you stuff. You could find that you get information from sources that you can't really explain it. The information just kind of comes to you and then it happens. It's like when you're being yourself and you're going through it, and all of a sudden certain words pop into your head that can actually manifest in your life. If you have your moon in the 8th house, you also are a very strong manifester. So if you really want something, if you really start thinking about what you want and you start thinking about certain words, it will manifest in your life. If you have your moon in the 9th house, life is kind of revolves around education and travel and wisdom and having higher knowledge. So you could feel very intellectually stimulated and happy when you are learning. And when you're in college, you could be somebody who's kind of like addicted to getting degrees. So you could be always in college, more information and studying more topics. If you're not currently in college or getting another degree or getting a degree, you are online learning and trying to gain as much knowledge as fast as you can all the time. You might want to learn about everything you possibly can. You could read a lot and you could listen to a lot of podcasts that will help you gain more knowledge throughout your entire life. You could be somebody who really likes travel as well and loves to watch travel videos. If you don't have the means to physically travel yourself, you're watching travel videos, you're watching people from other countries post on YouTube or post on TikTok and learning from their culture. You could also be somebody who wants to travel and wants to move and go different places. You could want to have like multiple homes or like a vacation home, so you travel multiple times a year and it makes you very happy. And you also like are always looking at different places online or like finding different places to go and you really like it. You might also find that you could be kind of a lucky person where just fortunate things happen to you that are kind of unexplainable, but just good things happen to you in your life. Your relationship with your mother, you could feel like she has always kind of made you prioritize education and has made you have to get a college degree, have to get higher education degree in some way. She could have really drilled it into your head that it's important to have higher education degrees and making sure that you're very well educated and very intellectually sharp, very intellectually smart, because it's like important for you in the long term. She could have had instilled it in your brain that it's important to get an education and you need to do so if you want to be successful in this lifetime. You could have also found that your relationship with your mother, she could be traveling a lot. She could have a lot of business trips, or she could just be traveling from place to place, and then she'll tell you, oh, I'm going to Mexico this week, and you're like, okay, just be safe. You know, she could be somebody who's like constantly traveling. If you have your moon in the 10th house, you are somebody who is very intellectually stimulated and rooted in ambition. You're a very ambitious person. You could be very competitive and want to climb to the top of anything that you do. You could want to become famous and use your fame as a springboard to create a business. You could be somebody who really likes women who are very ambitious as well. You could like somebody who has their own business, and you could be somebody who wants to surround themselves with successful women in order to become successful yourself and also to inspire you into becoming very successful. You may want to become a very famous person in order to make yourself feel happy. You could be somebody who's always posting on social media, or you could be somebody who wants to live in an area that will give them opportunities in order to become famous. You could be somebody who is very emotionally tied up in becoming famous. You could be somebody who really wants to do that. You could also be somebody who posts on social media and has a lot of luck with becoming famous. You could be somebody who just posts and it goes viral like all of the time. Like, you might not even work that hard to go viral, but it just happens to you. You could find a lot of success when you are in your like celebrity energy. People could love that and want to watch you. They could find that you are very beautiful when you are in your like celebrity energy and love to see you in that way. People could also see you as like a nurturing motherly figure when you are in the public eye. They want you to nurture them because the moon sign represents nurturing, and 10th house is all about fame, success, and ambition. You could find that people want to be nurtured by you. They want to watch you because they remind you of your mom. It makes them very happy. You could find that that's what people see in you when you're in your celebrity energy. You could also be something like a successful music artist or model because people see you and they view you as very beautiful and they like you. You might also find that people who have your sun sign, when you have your moon in the 10th house, you become more successful than your sun sign. You might find that you will become very successful and very famous in doing so. You might also find that your relationship with your mom, she could have instilled like you need to work hard in order to be successful. She could have instilled success in your brain. Your mom could have also been somebody who was famous or somebody who is in the spotlight in some way. If you have your moon in the 11th house, you could be somebody who's very intellectually stimulated by the fact that you love being around groups of people and you always want a friend group. Like, you always want people surrounding you in some way. You don't really like being alone, and you could be emotionally wrapped up in like other people, and you could find that like you love being on social media and gaining a following on social media. You could also be somebody who is very into having a friend group and always having people around you in order to make you feel happy. Having your moon in the 11th house can also make you a very strong manifester and making you somebody who just like has a lot of hopes and wishes and dreams. And this is also what people really like about you too, is that you're always kind of positive in a way. You could attract people through your own emotional things that you want. Like, you could want something in your life and you could project that out into the universe, and like people will want that for themselves and like you more. You could find that you could attract a lot of groups of women in your life. You could be like somebody who has friend groups who are predominantly women and attract women in your life who are like positive. You could be somebody who's like in a sorority or just like around groups of women all of the time. You could have like a big friend group who are predominantly women. Like when you're in school or when you're out of school, you could be like in a women's league for sports or something where you're like around groups of women and it's just a theme throughout your entire life. You could also have like a big social media presence and your followers are primarily women. You could be somebody who has like this presence that attracts women, and they like to watch you in the limelight. You could also find that your relationship with your mother is relatively positive. She could have been somebody who has always been kind of like a socialite her entire life, or has always been kind of popular, and that has been something that was kind of like instilled in you as like a kid, is like you should have a group of friends, like you should have friends throughout your entire life, and that has kind of stuck with you. If you have your moon in the 12th house, you are somebody who has endured a little bit of suffering in your life, or you have felt that you're kind of like alone most of the time. However, it's not terrible, because being alone, you might be able to accomplish more things, or your life could be a little bit less rocky as it could be when you have a lot of people in your life. You could find that if you have your moon in the 12th house, you could have been hospitalized or have been in hospitals, or if something not so negative has happened to you, you could work in the hospital system, or worked in a like as a nurse or a doctor or a surgeon. You could be also somebody who is highly spiritual and highly open to spiritual information. So you could be somebody who understands the universe. You could talk to spirit. You could have very like spiritual experiences happen to you. You could find that you don't necessarily have that many relationships with women in your life, or you could find that every relationship with a woman has been kind of negative in some way. You could have found that your relationships with women have unfortunately been not the best relationships. You could have found that a lot of women have been nice to your face and then have like done something behind your back. That could have been something that has been a theme throughout your entire life if you have your moon in the 12th house. And your relationship with your mother, if you have your moon in the 12th house, you could have never really seen your mother, or you could have been alone most of your life, and she kind of has like a non-existent presence. That could be something that like has been a theme throughout your entire life as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post new content every single week.